welcome to the Grid Live pre-race After Dark edition. Last time, it was for the Japanese Grand Prix, and we brought it back again here for Suzuka. We also have NASCAR at Martinsville for the Cookout 400. My name is Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. We have Jackson Lambrose once again from Outlet Media, part of the first After Dark crew as well. Unfortunately, Alex Anderson and Isha Azim not available tonight, but hopefully next time when we do this as well. But we do have to make their After Dark debut, of course, Ben Schneider from Grid Live Encore and lastcar.info. And, of course, Nicole Fry from Fans in Focus Media. And, of course, Joe Samiego is here as well. And a big thank you as well to our Patreon investors of Colin, Deshelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. And you can invest in Grid Coffee link or YouTube super chats as well. You can do a £10 super chat, which has already been done as well throughout the time we've had it available here on YouTube. You can do the buy me a coffee and we'll make you mail you as well some of the Grid Network stickers. And trust me, stickers are actually fantastic that you can put them on the back of your phones, your iPads, your laptops, wherever you are. Just get the name Grid Network out there as well. And you can also become a member of the Grid Network Team Coffee as well, because coming up there is Barger Blast or a late night snack as well. We're all good throughout this one as well. And just to mention their name in contribution, of course, super chat will be read on the air first, as we've always got through. Coffees are ready, Mountain Dews are ready as well to come through. They're all set up. Good news, Jackson, as well. I don't control the cameras tonight, so let's go to bed for Suzuka in Japan.
Been up since 7:30 because I had a track meet this afternoon, so I've been up for a while. I'm pretty tired, but I've got my Baja Blast to keep me going here, so let's just jump right into it. Pleasure to be joining you all on my After Dark debut here for the Grid Network, but let's jump in with the main event here with Formula One at Suzuka. They've raced here 33 times, only 5 times has the winner not come from the front row, that happening in 1989 and 90, and then again in 2005 and 06, and most recently in 2019. The front row is all Red Bull. Absolute shocker, Max Verstappen on pole position once again. Last time here, Verstappen's winning streak ended the race before by Carlos Sainz in Singapore. And an interesting turn of events here. Of course, it was just ended once again in Australia. Verstappen coming off that DNF. Sainz won previously in Melbourne. And now Verstappen trying to restart another winning streak here in Japan, similar to last year. But the competition, at least on the timing sheets, is much closer. Lando Norris is third and Sainz in fourth in the second row. So, Nicole, we'll go to you first for this one. Do you think we actually have a race on our hands this weekend? Or is it going to be another Red Bull Max Verstappen domination show?
At this point, I think it's pretty fair to say that Max is probably going to dominate that P1 spot. I mean, he's unstoppable in that rocket ship that Red Bull have built him. So it will really kind of just depend on whether or not Red Bull can keep it reliable consistently throughout this race. We've seen that they're not undefeatable. They can have issues. They can suffer from some malfunctions. And who knows, maybe this is another weekend of that. It's probably not likely, but overall, I think we're going to see a little bit more of a battle for the midfield than anything else.
Absolutely agree, Nicole. And I think you would be dumb to say that Max isn't the favorite this weekend. And you can say that although he has not had as strong of a start to the season as we might have expected, you could put a lot of that down to mulligans, especially after last weekend in Australia, or 2 weekends ago, excuse me. But the great news here is, I think regardless of where you look in this field, you're going to get great battles. Fernando Alonso up in 5th. What's he going to be able to do? Can he make a strategy work to keep him up there? You got guys like Charles Leclerc and George Russell kind of on the outside looking in. Yuki Tsunoda just on the edge of points there. What can he do to maybe grab points at home? I think even though Max Verstappen might take off and win this thing, Checo was still dang close yesterday night. And I just still think we're going to have great fights anywhere we look, Ben.
Yeah, well, Red Bull certainly, regardless, looking fast and motivated following that disappointing Australian Grand Prix. But Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin also looking fast. Of course, Alonso has been around a while. He ended his rookie season here in Japan all the way back in 2001. Here in 2024, he is on row 3 in 5th place. That's the same spot that he won this race from in 2006 on the way to his second championship in Formula One. So, Nicole, can Aston Martin deliver the perfect race here to help Alonso win, or is it all on Alonso, the driver, to get the most out of that car?
I think it all depends what Suzuka has in store for us. This track is a favorite of his and many other drivers. And with the upgrades that Aston Martin has brought, I think we're still a little unsure about, again, how reliable they're actually going to be. They haven't had a lot of runtime this weekend. And so I think when it comes down to it, it's not only going to be Aston Martin doing their part in the pit stops with the strategy that they put Alonso on, but also Alonso just being on top of his game and driving a near perfect race. Like, that's what it's going to take for him to get on the podium this weekend. Anything less, and he's going to be potentially out of the points.
Hey, Nicole, we talk about this lack of practice time, and I think what that really means is it's going to come down to a lot of experience and skill on the driver's end to really pull the team pace-wise. And I think when you've got a guy like Alonso, who's easily had the most starts here of the active field, I think he's in the perfect position to really, really get the most out of this car at this venue. I'm curious what Josh has to think, though.
Well, it's interesting enough that you mentioned he starts from 5th on the grid in the 3rd row once again, because if you take a look at the stats, it's once again his best qualifying result here at Suzuka. 5th in 2003, won here from 5th in 2006, 2010, 2011, and 2014. Of course, it's been 10 years since he last started 5th on the grid. Now, he did retire from that 2014 race as well, that monsoon race where sadly, of course, we lost Jules Bianchi and we're celebrating him today. But it was on lap 3, just after the restart, where water got into the Ferrari electronics and cut out the engine. But it's a good position for him to start from. Now, as Nicole mentioned, they've got the upgrade package. He didn't run it in practice 1. Stroll ran the new upgrades, and Alonso run the old package in P1. It got put on for P2, but of course that was a sort of wet, dry, not intermediate, not dry, so nobody went out to waste tyres. So he didn't get a full run there. He's only had half a session of race data on this update. So he's going to be in a bit of an unknown territory with this new upgrade. Qualifying was good, but the race, that's going to come down to whether he can get into a safety car strategy or not. I'm expecting, like Nicole, a podium to come through. He's a possibility for 2nd, but we're going to mention a bit later on cars that are going to be faster and personally who I think could make out that podium behind the 2 Red Bulls.
Really quick before we move on here, 89, 90, 05, 06, 19, all times that it's been outside of the front row winning. We talked about Alonso winning this from 5th. I don't know if you have this answer off the top of your head, Josh or Joe, but do we know what the farthest back someone has started and has won this thing?
I think it's got to be Kimi, right?
Raikkonen.
I'm getting 15th
Kimi
from Kimi.
Raikkonen.
Yes.
Yeah, 2005. Has to be Kimi.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Last lap around the outside of Fisher Keller.
Right.
I think it was Fisher Keller. Yeah, it was Fisher Keller.
Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe there's hope for Williams or Sauber or somebody. I don't know off the top of my head who started. There it is. It's on the left side of my screen. Alex Albon. There you go. Maybe he's got a shot at shot.
You heard it here first, folks.
All right, let's move on here. Let's talk about Carlos Sainz. And again, just to put in perspective how long Fernando Alonso's been around here, he was 7 years old when Alonso first debuted at Suzuka. Sainz again showed pace in qualifying. His teammate Charles Leclerc down there a little bit further on the grid in P8. A rough Q1 saw Leclerc use an extra set of tires and only put in 1 lap in Q3. Now, Sainz has 2 podiums in the 2 races he started this year. Many wonder what would have happened had he not missed Saudi Arabia, given the strong run Oliver Behrman had in his place. Jackson, does Sainz's streak of podium finishes to start 2024 continue here tonight?
It's going to be down to what Lando Norris can do to keep him at bay, and I think that start is going to be really, really important. And again, I think it's all really, really going to come down to how these cars compete in the long run. We haven't seen necessarily how long these guys have gone for more than 5-10 laps. We were going to get that, but again, FP2 rained out, and we haven't really gotten that data, and that's a lot of things we don't necessarily know yet. I would trust, actually, the consistency. This might be a Baja Blast take, Ben. I would trust the consistency of Ferrari's pace over McLaren's here, and I really do think Sainz is going to end up on that podium.
it's a brave bet as well, but he was third in practice 1, then 7th in practice 3, and then finished now 4th in qualifying. So he has remained consistent at the weekend. But if you look at Oscar Piastri, 8th in practice 1, 8th practice 3, 6th in qualifying, he's seeming to be consistent to be in the midfield. Lando Norris, however, equaling his best qualifying in 3rd position, and he was 10th in practice 1, 6th in practice 3, and then 3rd in qualifying. So he's getting better and better as the weekend goes on. He's sort of my tip to go on there for the top position as well, because if outside the 2 Red Bulls who look like they're going to take a 1-2 quite easily, they've been 1-2 in every dry session we've had this weekend. It looks like Lando's the next one to go along. McLaren ran strong here last year. If you're watching our Grid Tonight show on Wednesday, Matt White said as well that he was expecting McLaren to do well here. And it's Lando who's picking slack, not Oscar Piastri. So if anybody, it'll be Norris in 3rd. I don't think Ferrari have quite got the pace here at the moment. They always struggle at Suzuka in the past couple of years. So yeah, I'm not entirely too sure that Ferrari or Sainz will have a podium. But interesting, you mentioned that. Where could he be if he did race in Jeddah? I'll tell you where it'd be. Leading the championship. That's a scary thought to see.
Yeah.
It will definitely be interesting. I do think Sainz has it in him as long as the Ferrari is able to actually stay on track. Suzuka is so notorious for having just these interesting incidents that cause them pretty big delays or red flags. And I think whether or not he finishes on the podium is going to be so dependent, rather not on the people in front of him, but the people behind him and how well they can actually do at keeping their car on track throughout the race, because we know that that can just change up the entire evening.
Yeah, no doubt. One clarification before we move on. I was tracking the gap between Albon and Sargent, so I thought I had in my head Albon was starting 14th. I believe we swapped that on our graphics. It's actually Esteban Ocon starting in 15th, the spot where Kimi Räikkönen came through all those years ago. So maybe good news for Alpine instead of Williams on that front. And, of course, Alpine need all the good news they can get, given their dreadful start to the season here. At least Ocon did make it into Q2, and we'll get that question out of the way a little bit later here in this lightning round. But first, let's start ahead with Lance Stroll. He was out in Q1. Again, we go into the opposite end of the spectrum here for Aston Martin in terms of where their drivers ended up in qualifying. He has 5 starts at this track, only 1 points finish in 2019, and that was after a couple of cars got DQ'd. Josh, we'll start with you. Does Stroll score any points today?
Sadly not. I mean, that car for him has been very up and down throughout the weekend already. I think Alonso has got a better grip of the new upgrade. Lance always struggles when upgrades come in, and I don't think he's got a handle. He's never really clicked with Suzuka that well. So sadly, no, he's not going to score any points. The field's too congested for that.
I've got to agree. I don't think he's going to be in points this weekend, unfortunately. Wish it wasn't true, but I think if any of the Astons are going to score points, it's definitely going to be Fernando.
No points. Better start learning tennis, buddy. Ben?
Well, tell us how you really feel, Jackson. Yeah, I tend to agree with everybody here. I think if Aston's going to be in the points, of course, it's probably going to be Fernando Alonso, given where they're starting. Let's move on now. Another driver that's been struggling a little bit, Logan Sargent, again, had a crash in FP1. Fortunately for him, not as bad as Alex Albon's in Australia. The chassis was not structurally damaged to the point where they had to withdraw his car again this weekend. But is he on the hot seat? Nicole, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. I think he's right now feeling the pressure from all angles, from himself, from his team, and definitely from the media. I think he really needs to prove himself this weekend. Otherwise, those rumors of maybe an early summer break departure could very much be true.
Everyone wants him to work his way up from the back of the pack. A smart Logan Sargent is going to focus on keeping this car in one piece.
Josh, you want to go ahead?
Well, I don't think as well that he's going to be all that Can you hear me? Yeah. I don't think it's going to be all that motivated to go forward as well.
All right,
we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going.
This is what happens when you're live. It's almost 4 in the morning over, or after 4 in the, I don't even know. We're all on different time zones here. This is what happens on the After Dark show sometimes. We'll circle back to Josh in just a second. Let's move on real quickly, though. Valtteri Bottas starting 13th. Of course, the Sauber team having terrible pit stops, costing him a lot of time in the pits over these opening few races. Jackson, do you think the pit stop will once again cost Bottas positions in the race here in Japan?
Going to be less of a issue than I think before. I think these are simple things that hopefully Sauber can address.
Well, I've removed them from my overall fantasy team. Yeah, you can hear me all good.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Yeah, all good. Yeah, I've removed them from my fantasy. Yeah, good. There's a bit of a delay on the time zone signals. Yeah, so I've removed them from my fantasy league because those pit stops are still going to be problematic. They were testing them in practice 3, but it's a sticky wheel gun nut as well. We keep seeing it. They can't fix it. So no, that's going to be a problem.
Nicole, what are your thoughts?
I wish I could say that I feel like they're going to do well this weekend. I really wish they would. But I think that their car and their team has just been so unreliable with these little things that it's going to be really tricky.
That's certainly been very frustrating starts of the year for them, but we'll see. Maybe they can get those issues ironed out here in Japan this weekend. And looks like we might be losing Josh again here. You see the live shot of the track and everything, but we'll see if we can get Josh back for this next one. Yuki Tsunoda starting one position ahead of Daniel Ricciardo here in his home race. That's the closest those two have been this season. Josh, thanks for coming back here. It looks like we've got you back. Who finishes ahead between the Visa Cash App RB teammates? Is it going to be Yuki Tsunoda or Daniel Ricciardo?
It's going to be Yuki Tsunoda. I mean, it was Ricciardo who had that moment in practice where he just drifted off the track. And Wi-Fi is being a right pain today, I can tell you. But it's going to be Tsunoda. He's got home track advantage. He was going well. I reckon he could be better because if I look at my notes here that I've got in the commentary box, Tsunoda's best result here was 12th. So he needs some points. And starting in 10th, I think he can go a few better and get some well-deserved points this season.
I have to agree. I think having the mentality of your home track behind you is absolutely amazing. And especially since he's been consistently outperforming his teammate. And not only that, but Daniel has not had as much run time with the car this weekend. I think Yuki is going to end up ahead of him.
Fair, but again, a lot more time at this track for Ricciardo. I still want to say, because it's the better, this is hard. Better story would be obviously Tsunoda winning. I'm going to say Ricciardo. I think he's got the track experience that you really, really need here to be fast. So we'll give it to Danny.
That would certainly be a huge confidence boost for him, as it would be for Alpine and Esteban Ocon. Like we just mentioned, they got into Q2. Does he and the Alpine team fall to a lower finishing position given where they've started this season? Nicole, what do you think?
That it's kind of a toss-up. I do not think they're having a good season. And I think this season, it's still early, but we'll kind of have to wait and see if it's just going to be a toss away and if they need to start focusing on next season incredibly early. I think if they're going to turn it around, it's going to be at Suzuka. I think this is a really good testing ground for them with the upgrades. And so hopefully between all of the changes that are coming this weekend, it will end up being a good weekend for Alpine for once this season.
Yeah, I like that thinking, actually. Like, regardless of how they finish, it's gonna be good data for them. I think if we know how chaotic things can get here at Suzuka, so if there's any way they can work themselves up, it's going to be through, the kind of turn one chaos we've seen here. But I think it's just going to come down to reliability and well execution on the strategy end.
Yeah, if there's a track that they can get points at, it is Suzuka. It's one of the great unknowns and great challenges. It's a old school circuit that bites in the dry and the wet. We have a 50-50, don't we, with what the weather's going to do. Right now, as you saw when I went, everything gone wrong. That was a live view of the track. It's sunny, a few clouds around, and the rain is due to come in slowly throughout towards the start time because we've still got 90 minutes before the lights go out. So anything can happen, anything can change, and it's a 2-hour race. So yeah, there's an opportunity here for them to get some points, but I don't know. Is Ocon got the car underneath him to do so? Maybe, but I reckon they're going to be 11th, just on the cusp.
My bad. I've lost Josh was the last one to go there. Let's move on. Nico Hulkenberg, starting 12th, scored points in the last 2 races. Is he going to make it 3 in a row? Jackson, we'll start with you.
We need one good thing for America to happen on this track today, and if it's not Logan Sargent, it will be Haas. Give me points for Hulk.
Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm experiencing terrible lag here, so I just apologize because I completely missed Jackson's comment there, the second one, about Hulkenberg starting in 12th position. They're going to work together, Magnussen and Hulkenberg. Mukuramatsu, it's his home Grand Prix for team principal here, and he's got a great opportunity to go forward and take it because he wants to go well here. It's all about honor for him this weekend. He was talking to Anthony Davidson about he wants to put on a good show, and I reckon he's got that sorted because for a second we thought Haas could get into Q3 once again, and Hulkenberg then Magnussen.
Yeah, why not? I mean, Haas have been on a roll. They've been doing fantastic. Honestly, who says they can't get points? Who says that Suzuka isn't going to cause 2 DNFs and they're just going to move up? Anything can happen. And like you said, if any American team or any American entity in F1 is going to do well this weekend, it's going to be Haas for sure.
All right, yeah, certainly great starts of the year for Nico Hulkenberg. Already has more points finishes this year than he had last year. Last year was just a P7 in Australia, and that crazy ending to that race there. Haas seemed to have been punching above their weight to start the year. We'll see if they can continue that here later tonight or this morning, wherever you are in the world getting ready to watch this race. Now on to Mercedes, the Silver Arrows. Lewis Hamilton starting ahead of George Russell. Can he finish ahead of Russell for the first time in 2024? Josh, we'll go to you first.
Yes, because Russell's been off the pace all weekend long. He's been struggling, can't get the car in the right setup. Lewis was complaining about the car not having rear stability, but in qualifying 2, he looked really hooked up, and he took that momentum into qualifying 3, and all of a sudden it looked like the Lewis of old, just tiny glimmers. So I reckon he's got the pace here. He's won here before, of course, several times in 07. He won at Fuji, of course, so that's a different circuit, but he won for the first time here in 14, and he 15, 17, and 18 at Suzuka, and he's got the momentum. He's going to be up there, certainly, and definitely ahead of Russell. And, of course, Toto Wolff cancelling plans to not attend this race, to attend this race after the double DNF in Australia and the bad start to the season that Mercedes have had. It's emergency measures over there at Mercedes, as we had it confirmed in the press conference that they're in, I think top 3 now. They have names down to who can replace Lewis Hamilton. So that's going to start breaking over the season as well as to who could already go in. Off the top of my head, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Fernando Alonso, and Sebastian Vettel. That's the 3 I'd go for.
Yeah, I think Hamilton, he loves this track. He knows it incredibly well. I think he's going to finish ahead of George this weekend, not just based on race pace, as we've seen this weekend so far, but just based on his history with the track and how well we know he can perform here, despite the crazy weather.
Both you guys put it fantastically. Felt like vintage Hamilton here, and he's got the experience. I will easily put him ahead of Russell. I'll even throw in a top 5 finish.
Bold prediction right there. Let's see. Before we move on to the last question here in this lightning round, I just want to issue another correction/clarification. I actually pulled up the results for Japan 05 and went to the qualifying grid. Kimi Räikkönen actually started 17th that day.
Oh my gosh.
Even further back.
Dude,
impressive.
We got
that one.
Daniel Ricciardo, your winner at Japan. You heard it.
There you go.
That's too far.
All right, but let's talk about someone driving even further back potentially. If Zhou Guanyu won this race, I think that would absolutely save the Formula One season here from all the Max Verstappen domination predictions we've been putting out there. But he is starting last for the first time in his Formula One career to start 2024. He has not scored any points in these first 3 races. So he is in desperate need of a good run here, but he's going to be coming from all the way in the back today. Nicole, let's keep with the silly season theme here for 2025. Do you expect Guan Yu Zhou to be out of a ride, or will he still find a spot somewhere on the grid?
I think he still has a chance of being on the grid next year. I think 2026, that's a completely different question. But as far as 2025 next season, if he can perform well over the rest of the season, maybe minus Japan, then who says he can't be here? You know, he's a great driver.
I like that train of thought, actually, Nicole, because I do think that deadline is when that transition fully goes from Sauber into Audi. So I think at most, for sure, 1 year here. But I think for sure this race, pivotal. What can we see this guy do from last place? Josh? This is like newscaster.
Third race running, as Amber has donated as well.
Are you there?
Yeah, Amber JJ's answering the super chat as well. So thank you very much, Amber, as well for that. I'm here. Can you hear me? I'm coming through.
We're good.
As well, there's a slight delay. I'm in the UK with a storm blowing behind us. Yeah,
that would do it.
And you're over there, and all of you in America. So you're on a completely different networks. So I'm chasing storms. It'll be fine for when we're on commentary, Jackson, in a minute. So don't worry about that. Yeah, Zhou Guanyu, third race running. He's starting 20th on the grid. Not the best. And he has fought himself back up into points paying positions, into like 12th position. It's been the pit stops that have been a major problem for him as well, because he got caught around in Bahrain, then again in Australia. Bottas had it in Jeddah, and then he had it also in Australia. So there's a lot to be there to move it around. But I think he might be still there in 2025 because, as Nicole, it is that changeover point. So I think he's safe for now. And plus, he's a better driver than what you would replace him with. Zhou has got a lot of talent, and he's sort of stuck in a car that can't develop until Audi come in 2026.
You know, this reminds me of when Danica Patrick won her IndyCar race in Japan,
Yes.
and Marty Reed and Scott Goodyear were calling the race from Long Beach because they have a Champ Car finale the next day, and Jack Arute was in the pits in Japan, and there was a delay from when the booth was asking him a question because they were so far apart. I guess maybe something similar is happening here with Josh tonight. So it's fitting that this is for the Japanese Grand Prix. That just popped back in my memory there. All right, and I was going to go to Josh for a follow-up, but because of that delay...
I'm not even in Japan!
Man, we're not even half an hour in, and we've already lost all control here on Grid Live After Dark.
We're good.
Yeah, Amber, first of all, thank you so much for the super chat. It is much appreciated. $5 there from Amber JJ, one of our regulars, and she also asked us a question a little bit earlier on in the show. Does anybody have a favorite Japanese food they want to share before we move on here in the script?
I'll throw one out instantly, and this should not be a surprise to you, Ben. The little ramune, like bubble sodas. I don't know if you know what those are.
Sure.
Where you like push down the tops. We have like a ton of those at Convoy right by our campus here in San Diego. I love them.
Ooh, that's a good choice. I've got to say my favorite is ramen. Any type of ramen, all the time, 24/7. That's my favorite.
I'm with Nicole on this one. Me and Megan absolutely love ramen. I make it all the time for her as well. It's just so easy, so simple, and so tasty as well. I do love some sushi though as well. That's got to be thrown out there as well. But I absolutely love ramen. And I think I talked about this on the Grid After Dark last year. There is a wonderful restaurant in Osaka where you have sort of bamboo shoots with running cold water, and the noodles get cooked at the top of the restaurant, and they get sent down the chute, and you catch them with your... Yeah, there we go. So yeah, you it's amazing, and I've always wanted to experience that, and I think it's just so brilliant how I've been seeing it throughout the weekend as well on the TV pictures. The fact that it's a completely different culture over there in Japan. It is different to any other country in the world. It's got its own identity, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's the best fans in the world anywhere. And I know we say that about Silverstone and America, but no, Japan, they're dedicated, they're knowledgeable, they're passionate, and they are just absolutely insane for Formula One. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Ben, what you got?
Well, those are all great choices. It's not a personal favorite for me, but I will say if you're looking for a great documentary film to watch regarding Japanese food, Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Highly recommend that one if you haven't seen it yet. Put it on your watch list. It's a 2011 documentary about Jiro Ono and the restaurant that he owns in Japan. Really great watch, so make sure you check that one out. All right. Hopefully, Josh's internet is not lagging too badly here, and we can go ahead and move on and finish off the F1 segment before you go do your watch along here. Let's look at the race odds a little bit. Despite not winning the last race, I think Max Verstappen is still in the minds of a lot of people a heavy favorite here. You see him at minus 600 on the odds sheet here on the left side of your screen. Now, a little bit of a surprise, Carlos Sainz is only fourth behind Max Verstappen's Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez and his own former teammate at McLaren, Lando Norris. Now, the initial start, the first corner, is a place where we've seen a lot of chaos over the years. Of course, most iconically, Senna and Prost going at it. If Norris or Sainz gets off to a better start, having Red Bull or having Perez, rather, or both Red Bull cars play defense, that could get into a little bit of a dicey situation. You just never know what's going to happen in these starts sometimes in Formula One. So, Josh, let's start with you for this. Do you think it'd be wise for Red Bull to have a strategy going into this first corner? And does that involve their number 2 driver, Perez, protecting their number 1 driver, Verstappen?
I do, yes, because the last thing they want is a first corner crash because Max starts on the racing line, which is an outside position to turn 1. Checo will have the inside line. And then, of course, coming up there, Lando will be right behind Verstappen. So if Perez doesn't get the best getaway, Lando can slip on the inside line and take Max on the inside into the first corner, and that's not what they want. So Max, I think, is going to come across to the center of the track. Perez will come in behind, and then they'll sort of block off Lando, and that'll send him either to the outside, and then they'll put Hamilton on the inside. So then into the first corner, Red Bull will now 1-2 with the position gain. It's then Hamilton versus Lando inside into turn 1. You don't break into that first corner because there's just no need. The cars have got so much downforce now with the ground effect era that you literally go into that first corner, you lift off the throttle and let inertia and engine braking downshift the gears as well. You're going from, on the start, you're in 7th gear and you drop down into 3rd. On a racing lap, you're in 8th gear and bam, 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 down into 4th gear and then back on the accelerator mid-exit towards the S's and up the hill. If Red Bull are 1-2 into that first corner, they've got the race sorted because it's impossible to overtake at Japan on the opening lap if you've got a strong start, because the next one to really have a go at is at the top of turn 11 at the hairpin, and that's a dive bomb position. So it's pretty much a done deal. If I want to be really, really happy, I'd say what would happen is Perez fluffs the start, Lando and Max battling for the opener. Lando gets the lead. Max tries around the outside of the 130R, and then they're side by side into Casio triangle. That's the thing that could happen at the start of the race, because of course no DRS until lap 2.
Josh, don't answer this because of the Wi-Fi, but you're going to remember the prediction I made at the start of last year's Japanese Grand Prix, and that was the 2 cars in the front row make contact and Norris takes the lead, because I think it was Norris starting on 3rd last year. Might have been, no, I think it was Leclerc. Regardless, I think it's real possible, because we know Checo is not the best driver if guys really get their shoulders out into turn 1, especially after Mexico last year. So I'm gonna say potentially we could say it's all going to be on Checo. It's all going to be on Checo and what he does here in turn 1. But it's very possible that we see some kind of execution into turn 1.
It was Verstappen, Piastri on the front row, and then Norris and Leclerc in row 2 last year, to answer your question, Jackson.
Okay. I didn't want no way I wanted Piastri out. No. I did say they were going to hit each other, though. I boldly remember that. Nicole, what you got?
Well, man, if either of you are correct, it is certainly going to be an interesting race.
Oh, sorry, go on, Nicole.
It's going to be an interesting race. I think as far as like Red Bull calling team orders, I don't think they're going to. I think they're just going to have a little bit of faith that their drivers like aren't going to completely like mess up the start. Whether or not that's true, I don't. There's some hesitation to that. But I think at the end of the day, they're just going to let them go out there and just do what they do best. And if they crash into turn one, they crash into turn one. And then they'll just get yelled at later for it. So we'll see.
All right, sorry. I assumed Josh was going to come back in and follow up here, but we've got the lag issue. Okay. We'll move on then. Adam bringing up, of course, Senna and Prost, 1990, starting on the front row and crashing. So it has happened. And, of course, as Amber mentions, a safety car could also change the outcome of this race, depending on where that falls. So we'll keep an eye on that, particularly at the start of the race. Now, Jackson, as you might call it, the battle of mid, potentially in Formula One here, past Max Verstappen, probably going to be between second and ninth with Perez and Alonso. And then the Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes teammates all in that mix as well. Of course, if Verstappen has an issue and falls out of the race again, as he did just last time out in Australia, the race could be wide open. So we'll start with you, Jackson. Which drivers and teams are you going to watch for a strong podium run and perhaps even a win if Verstappen has similar unfortunate events take place?
Man, I want to see Alonso do cool stuff. I want to see McLaren do cool stuff. We've seen your starters here both in fifth and sixth show pace here. Piastri super fast last year, and I think we could 100% see both those two guys, the veteran Spaniard in Fernando and the sophomore here in Piastri, really go for a run here. Gonna take strategy, gonna take keeping it clean, but I think very, very possible to happen, as Ryan Kotop from my old gig at PH waves hello.
I think you're spot on. I think the McLarens and probably Fernando are going to be battling it out. I won't throw Norris out of the mix. I think he does decently well at this track, so I think he still has it in him to pull out a good race. But I think it's definitely going to be questionable whether the Ferraris can actually, have a good run. But we'll see. I think, though, it's probably between the McLarens and Fernando.
Josh,
I have an old friend that's waking up as well, who is hopeful that Lando Norris can get a podium, hopeful even for a race win. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. I think we've got McLaren straight up there. We've got the two Mercedes being involved. Ferrari are just on the outside as well. Personally, I'd say it's going to be Verstappen from Perez, from Norris. Then it's going to be Hamilton, followed them by Sainz. Leclerc coming in sixth position as well. Russell in seventh. And then down in eighth, we'll probably see Alonso. Tight field going up throughout it. I think that's sort of the running order I'm expecting to see as well throughout the race.
All right. Lots to keep an eye on beyond just Verstappen here. Of course, the F1 race coming up shortly. We've got to let Josh go to the set of his watch along to get ready for that. And of course, the link to that is in the description box below if you're watching on YouTube. But Josh, before we let you go, we want to have you pick your winners for Formula One and NASCAR. And then, of course, the game that was born on this show last year, pick P7 because we all just assume Max is going to be P1. What have you got?
Max P1. For the top honors, obviously. He's going to run away with this like he has done for the past 2 seasons and make it 3 in a row. Interesting enough, he's qualified pole 22-23, won 22-23. Now he's got pole in 24. No reason why he wouldn't take this again for 3 in a row. Did the same at Austria. In NASCAR, I've gone Denny Hamlin because it's his type of circuit to come into as well. Back-to-back wins a possibility as well. You'll get onto that shortly. And for P7 in Formula One, who did I say a second ago? George Russell in 7th position. There you go. That's what I'm thinking to go down there for Russell.
Josh, I think you stole my tweet from 2 days ago because that's the exact same thing I tweeted out when we put our video out there, Verstappen, Russell, and Hamlin. But we'll see. I guess we'll make the same picks and we won't lose any points to one another. We won't gain any either because whatever results we get tonight and tomorrow will be the same for each of us.
It seems to be, yeah. Now, you've got the NASCAR to come to, and I'm going to go, hopefully, talk for 2 hours on a fantastic Grand Prix. And Jackson, I'll see you there soon.
See you there, brother.
I'll leave you with a live look at the track.
Oh, there we go. Come on, Wi-Fi. Yeah.
There we go.
It's gorgeous.
So do we do our pick sevenths here as well?
We're going to do that at the end of the show. I think we're going to
Cool.
bring Joe on the screen here and move into a NASCAR segment. So Jackson, take it away.
Gotcha. Welcome back to the place where people have landed on the moon. Welcome back to America. We're going real fast. We're going real left for NASCAR. We got Joe back here in the building, and we are talking about the Martinsville Cookout 400. After Dark last time occurred when Joe, Kobe, and Ben were unavailable, just to note. But we know the famous hot dogs here at Martinsville are going to be in high demand. Qualifying earlier today, Kyle Larson, your pole sitter. Hendrick teammates have a very special scheme, as this track has a ton of history that I could talk for hours about with this track. Of course, the side of Hendricks 40 years ago. On the outside of row one, Bubba Wallace, the number 23 XI car on the outside of row one, could have a potential for some really, really cool stuff there. Two are on good terms after last weekend. Both drivers have had some unfriendly run-ins in the past, but Wallace has had success at Martinsville and is looking for his first win since 22. Gentlemen, we'll start with Ben here. Can Bubba Wallace and his team stay up front, race against Larson and his teammates?
Yeah, well, first of all, I was pleasantly surprised that the Fox Newses and CNNs of the world did not pick up on the contact last weekend because, of course, anytime an outlet like that normally covers politics sees those two together on the racetrack, it all blows out of control. But fortunately, Noah Lewis got a good shot of the two in conversation after the race. They understood it was a racing incident. Most reasonable people understood that it was a racing incident. And hopefully, we can put that to rest and move on here. But it could be interesting because they are starting on the front row again. These two seem to be inseparable at times here on the racetrack. But of course, this is where Bubba Wallace has won in the past in the Truck Series and had some good runs in the Cup car as well. So absolutely, I think if the 2311 car has speed and if his pit crew does not let him down, because that has been a consistent issue really the entire time he's been at that organization, I think that he could absolutely have a strong run and be in contention to equal that starting position of P2, maybe even go one better during the race. But that's going to be the key variable in all of this. Can his pit crew actually just be competent? You don't even have to be spectacular. You don't have to, put in an 8-second pit stop and, pull a Kyle Larson 2021 to win the championship or what Denny Hamlin did last week. You just have to do the bare minimum. If you can just get an okay pit stop, I think Bubba Wallace will take that as a victory given his history with his pit crew over the last few years.
Can Bubba Wallace run up front with the others? Yes. Will he? No, because I think, as Ben has said, that pit crew is just goodness. It seems, I know Ben used the term the Dallas Cowboys. It just seems that if it comes to pit crew, that might be the Dallas Cowboys of pit crews, because it always just seems that whenever Bubba has something going great, a good race going on, at some point the pit crew just drops the ball, literally. Richmond, can you believe it? After that contact, Kyle Larson still benefited, finished ahead. Bubba Wallace, because of the pit crew, fell back. The team is talented. They got the experience. They got the capability to run up front, get wins. 2311, Toyota equipment, they're up there. It just seems to be this pit crew is just always holding them back. If they don't hold them back this weekend, I think Bubba Wallace will be up front. I just don't have the confidence in the pit crew. I just unfortunately think it's not going to happen.
Joe, they're not the Dallas Cowboys. They're the Carolina Panthers, because at least the Dallas Cowboys have past success and past history to fall back on. When was the last time you saw the 2311 pit crew actually do something that benefited one of their drivers? Because it's not just been Bubba Wallace. Tyler Reddick's been screaming on the radio about how pit stops have cost him time as well. Maybe there's something, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
The San Diego Padres of pit crews.
Well, but even you, Jackson, you
No.
guys were
No.
we met in the NLCS just 2 years ago. You guys had
Yeah, and you
had a
cooked
good
us.
run.
One win. Okay.
It could be worse.
We can talk about this all day. We can talk about this all day. We're gonna move on
and
though
Panthers made a
because
Super Bowl within the last decade too. So there you go.
okay, fair enough. Hi, Kobe.
Sorry,
All right.
Kobe.
They got Baja Blast already, Kobe. So
Yeah, no, we're good. Let's talk about one gentleman behind Wallace and Larson here, Martin Truex Jr. Many were shocked by his anger last weekend, known as a guy who races clean, not overly aggressive. After last weekend, does that change, Joe?
I think it does change, but not what you all think I'm going to say, because we've seen Martin Truex Jr. He'll say stuff, but just doesn't seem to live up to it. A good example, Joey Logano rubbed it up at Martinsville. He said he was going to go end the war because Joey won the battle. That did not happen at Homestead. In fact, on the outside, Logano got around Truex, and the championship was not under Truex's hands. I think Truex is going to change that. He's going to be more aggressive. This is Martinsville. You could do that. He's going to make it difficult for everybody, I think, not just Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin has to be careful. That's his teammate. You don't want to wreck out a teammate. But I think he's motivated. I think if he doesn't live up to what he was saying last weekend and just is the same, Martin Truex, I'm going to race everyone clean. I'm going to race respectfully, not get physical. Okay, Martin, do you really want to come back another year? Do you really want to go through all this again? I think the answer is no, he doesn't want to. So he has to change and just be more physical at Martinsville.
Well, we talked about this on Encore last week. You know, he talks like Dale Earnhardt, he races like Mark Martin, and that's basically been his entire career. You know, you can talk a big game all you want. You can say he may have won the battle, he ain't winning the damn war, but you can't act shocked when you don't do anything to stop him from winning the damn war, and that's Joey Logano holding that championship trophy that you couldn't defend in 2018. I mean, that's been the frustrating thing with Martin Truex Jr. for a while. I can, as much as I'm not a fan of intentional wrecks by any means, or even, you know, using the bumper, I prefer drivers to race cleanly, and I think that's part of why Truex was so frustrated at Joey Logano, given how long he had to work to get around him in the closing laps in 2018, and Logano just really shoving him out of the way and even costing him second place because Denny Hamlin came through and passed him, almost passed Logano to steal the win with how much contact those two were making in that race that year. You know, I just wish that if Truex was going to talk like that, he would at least show that he is capable of returning the favor when a championship is on the line, or, you know, whatever the deal is, even if it's with a teammate. And, you know, those are words coming out of his mouth. Can you back it up on the racetrack a little bit? I think that's been a frustrating point for Martin Truex Jr. for a while. So, yeah, I think, you know, it's frustrating. If the frustration is starting to boil over, and if you're Martin Truex, you know that you keep signing these one-year deals. You keep having to answer this question every summer when this question comes up. Are you going to be back next year? Is this going to be your farewell tour? You know that this might be your last best chance to go out and win a championship. You got to do everything you can.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that question, gentlemen, because since that championship run for MTJ, we've seen this obvious kind of decay in results. Are we kind of surprised with this front running? I don't want to necessarily say front running, but top 5, top 10 pace from him in the past couple races?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be too surprised. He's driving a Gibbs car, but I mean, based on how he collapsed last year, I mean, yeah. I mean, you know how I feel about the playoff system, and, you know, the fact that the regular season champion almost didn't even make it out of the first round. But there is no system where Martin Truex Jr. would have been able to ride that success the final 10 races. I mean, even if you did a straight up point system, I still think he would have fallen back to like 5th or 6th place in the Winston Cup format. You know, that there was no justifying how far that team fell off the face of the earth. So
I do need to take a drink of Baja Blast because you did mention the Winston Cup format in a grid stream. So,
oh, there you go.
Ooh, from Kobe Lambeth, keep my team's name out of your mouth, lol.
I don't know. You start 10-1, you can't even win 12 games. My Philadelphia Eagles, I don't have much of a place to talk here. So please accept my apologies, Kobe.
Yeah, let's talk about a group that's not 2-15, Stuart Haas Racing, with a couple of solid results, actually. We talked about this last week. Another great qualifying effort for Josh Berry. We talked about Josh Berry on the wrap-up show. Another short track, another great qualifying effort for him and his teammate, Chase Briscoe in 5th. Ryan Preece and Noah Gragson can work their way up. Only 2 top 10 finishes for Stuart Haas, and the last one being Gragson in Vegas. Starting with you, Ben, do we think that tomorrow could be the day that we have 2 Stuart Haas cars in the top 10?
Oh, I get why this show was such a blast last year.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, Stuart Haas, I think they're certainly on the way back up. There wasn't much further to fall down based on where they were last year. I mean, when you look past Kevin Harvick, I mean, he was, kind of willing that 4 car to, a little bit of success at the very least. But, their other 3 cars, I mean, Eric Almirola, a perfect example, I think. You look at how he was running at the end of last year, with the exception of this fall Martinsville race where he finished 2nd and then getting the win in the Xfinity race just a couple of hours ago. What a difference a year makes for him and a change of scenery there. It certainly was not all sunshine and roses, not really any sunshine and roses at SHR last year, but I think you have seen some signs of hope, some signs of the step forward being taken. Josh Berry, I think, has put in some strong runs and had some strong speed here. Ryan Preece and Noah Gragson, I still think, anybody that's completely writing them off as NASCAR busts, it's far too early for that conversation to be had. And Chase Briscoe, of course, another strong effort for him as well. He seems to be finding that speed once again. So, 2 cars in the top 10. If I had to put money on it, probably not. I'd say, probably 1 is more likely, but I'm not going to put it past SHR either. I think this is a good opportunity for him.
Great opportunity. I'm thinking for sure Josh Berry. The only reason why he hasn't got top 10 yet is just little mistakes. Bristol, things didn't go exactly his way. Richmond, but overall, that team is capable. Chase Briscoe's team, that's the team I feel like they really have to step it up. This isn't his first rookie year here. He's been here for quite some time. He can't just be middle of the pack, especially if Josh Berry is ahead of him. Thankfully, Briscoe's ahead of Berry at the start of the race. I think he needs to stay up there, prove he's worthy of that 14th seat. Ryan Preece, I think he could have a good race, but it just seems like the short tracks, we expect a lot from him. He either does well, but something happens, fades towards the back. Gregson, I feel, is almost a wild card. He had a top 10, looked like things were changing, and then he has some race where bad luck, no luck. I don't know what's going on with Gregson, but Stuart Haas Racing, I just think 2 cars in the top 10, they're going to be really happy about that, but I just don't know if that's going to happen.
I want to say it's a matter of, for Stuart Haas fans, I want to say there's something to be excited for, because it certainly feels like if it's not Martinsville, there's hopefully a matter of when and not if this crew gets 2 cars in the top 10. But as we see in the comments here with Adam Lemmerise, it is a big weekend for Hendrick Motorsports, 40th anniversary for them. And how awesome it is to see David Starr back in NASCAR from Adam Lemmerise. Let's move on here, though, to the actual race itself. It'll be 400 laps. That's 100 less than the fall race, where we saw different strategies. While the short track package might need work, still room for strategies there. What are some of those different strategies we might be able to see? Let's start with you, Joe.
I'm looking at what the tires are going to be doing. If you're back of the pack, we're seeing the tire fall off, and we have a long green flag run like lately with these cars, you will want to pit potentially 2 tires, pick up some ground. If you get a caution or you time it good enough and just survive, you can get stage points. Stage caution, you're up towards the front. If you're in the front, though, I think the tire strategy is going to be a little bit more who pits first, because there's going to be the undercut, but also taking factor to traffic. Last year, it seemed we had 3 different type of strategies. I think overall, it's going to be really dependent on if you're in the front of the field, back of the pack where you got to be a little bit more aggressive, middle of the field, you just got to be really wary of what's going on around you. If there's cars speeding and banging, and could potentially bring a caution as tempers boil, all sorts of stuff. It just one of those deals. Even I feel with the stage cautions, they're not too big of a deal. The equalizer will be a caution with 20 or so laps to go, and if you still have enough tires, then everyone's equalized. But I think the tire wear is going to be a big factor to see what happens with strategy.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add, Joe. I think you hit the nail right on the head. Obviously, the stages complicate things a little bit, but it's all going to come down to tire wear. Now, if we see tire wear unexpectedly severe, like we saw at Bristol, for example, obviously 2 tires is out of the question. You're not even going to consider that. But if it's not too bad of a fall off and you're at the back of the pack and we get a late caution, if it's an overtime restart, you might consider taking that chance and thinking we only have to hold on for 2 laps, maybe even less than that, maybe only a lap and a half if they wreck going into turn 1 on the final lap. Who knows what's going to happen? So I think that's the key variable and the key aspect that these teams are going to be looking out for. What are the tires doing, and how is that going to affect how we call the second half of this race?
When you combine the shortened laps here and just the absolute insanity that we saw with the tires at Bristol, I think it's going to be really, really cool tomorrow. Some of the past winners here. Denny Hamlin leads all active drivers here with wins, 5 in total. 11 past winners are here. Only 4 have won more than once. Guys, do we think these past winners have a better chance of winning here compared to other tracks? Ben?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I think it's certainly not a track that's super kind to rookies. I think it's a track that you have to adapt to and adapt to the drivers around you, and they know that if you're a lesser experienced driver, you might be more susceptible to being taken advantage of in the corners with a bumper run or being shoved up out of the groove. And then if you get out of the groove, particularly on a restart when the field is still bunched up, again, we saw it this, just tonight in the Xfinity race with SVG, getting shoved up into the outside lane and, losing more spots than he probably deserved to just based off that one move because he couldn't get back down to the inside. And, he's just learning these ovals. This was his first time being put in that situation. And, drivers in Cup, I think even the rookies will maybe have some experience in Xfinity or trucks here, but, it still is nowhere near, a Cup veterans level of experience at this track. And I think when you take that into consideration, if you've won here before, if you have experience at this track before and having success here before, you're certainly more likely to be able to do it again than somebody who hasn't done that before.
I think the past winners here, they have the experience, like you mentioned, been the rookies. You're going to get used up to beating and banging. But I think overall, you do need to have a team that just knows a little bit more for that setup. Granted, these cars are more equal than the past prior generations cars. Hendrick Motorsports is still one of the best teams at this track. They always seem to know how to get it done. But I think overall, if you have a veteran crew chief, a veteran driver, as the track changes, the rubber from the tires, the race, the way it works out, I think that's why you see some of those repeat winners like Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, they know how to get it done. But still, a driver like Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney last year, they could still go out there, get their first win.
Very interesting things to see here. Very exciting things going on tomorrow. Let's close out this race preview with a lightning round, starting with you, Joe. Josh Williams making another start will go down in history as one of the NASCAR drivers.
Josh Williams, outside the top 20, I think the music for the lightning round has got to go.
Yeah. It's a great place to test it because of the scuff, but dude, that was so loud during F1.
Yeah, well, Jackson, go ahead and ask the question again because I think it cut your mic out entirely that time. So
Josh Williams making another start. Does he finish inside or outside the top 20? This is for Joe.
Outside the top 20.
Yeah. Hi, Gibbs. Ben, here's yours.
What?
Here's how we're doing this.
I know you said you were going to alternate, but I got to get a
okay.
word
No,
in here.
go for it.
My colleague, he might not finish inside the top 30. I mean, you look at the pace that colleague had in qualifying, and again, Josh Williams coming here for the first time in the Cup Series. I mean, I think top 20, unless we get super high attrition and he's not a part of that, and or they work some crazy strategy. I don't know, but I think on pure pace alone, might not even finish in the top 30 here. I think that is probably a better benchmark. No disrespect to Josh Williams, but that's just where that team is right now.
This question exclusively for Ben Schneider. Ty Gibbs has had some infamous moments here. Do the tempers get the best of him here at Martinsville?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's going to get into an actual fight after the race like he did here in the Xfinity Series a couple of years ago, but certainly, I mean, he dumped his teammate for the win here when he came back in the fall. So, I think he's probably not going to make, he's going to make at least one enemy tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to result in anything too spectacular, but I don't think he's going to have many friends out there either.
This track will do that. Joe, last time we were here, Ryan Blaney took the checkered flag, won a championship the week later. Do we see Ford winning again tomorrow?
Potentially. They looked okay in qualifying, especially Logano, again, looking good. Josh Berry, if he somehow has a really good run and doesn't have anything go horribly wrong, I would not be surprised. I'm going to say yes. I think you can see a Ford in victory lane, but it's not going to be my pick a winner, though.
That would be a dope story. Ben, Austin Dillon's collecting crew chiefs like Pokemon cards. Another one this weekend. Will they turn a new corner, or is there more than just a crew chief change needed here?
Yeah, I said it in our chat on Grid Tonight when this news broke. If you've been through that many crew chief changes, it might not be the crew chief. I mean, and again, I don't know why Justin Alexander was ever not Austin Dillon's crew chief, because he's won 4 races and all 4 of them have been with him on the pit box. And yet this is his 3rd stint with him because they keep changing crew chiefs. And as you alluded to, as Amber alludes to here in this comment, it's been like Pokemon. You got to collect them all over at RCR. So, again, obviously Kyle Busch hasn't been off to the greatest of starts either this year. I know he was, about 6 inches away from winning Atlanta in that crazy photo finish. But aside from that, it hasn't been a great start for him either. But Austin Dillon had a dreadful year last year, in a year where Kyle Busch won 3 races. So, I think there's certainly a crew chief is part of it, but this might be, Austin Dillon's last best chance as well. If he can't find success with the man that he's found success with in the past on top of that pit box, you're running out of ways to be able to defend him. Obviously, he has the family connection at RCR, and I think has that ride as long as he wants it. But the performance wise, it's not been very good over at that 3 car.
Last question here for Joe. Since 2022, every race has had less than 10 cautions. Are we going to see that streak continue?
I think yes. With this generation car, the package, it's not a championship race. I think you're going to see, I'm going to take a guess, 5 cautions.
Ooh. Ben, I'll let you close here with if you want to take on here.
I'll go more than 5, less than 10. How's that? I think that you might see some shenanigans in the 3rd stage. But I will say this, though. I think the first 2 stages will be the stage cautions. I don't think we're going to see any. I think drivers are going to be respectful at the start of the race. You might see the intensity pick up at the end of the race. We might go into overtime, but I think it's going to be a clean start. I think the drivers really seem to drive this short track package cleanly and pretty well. Of course, the last couple of Martinsville races, I think in the eyes of a lot of fans, haven't been very good for that reason. The package still needs some work, but I think what that's going to lead to is some clean racing in the first half of the race.
At first, I was going to say maybe even to what we saw at Bristol or maybe even higher, but I know Martinsville isn't necessarily known for destroying and having as high dag as Bristol. So I'll go about you between 5 and 10 there. But that is all for us for NASCAR. Green flag tomorrow, 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. We're going to bring Nicole back in here. Nicole, time to pick some winners.
It is time. We've got less than an hour until Suzuka, the race, officially starts. And so if you're new here, like I am, way Pick a Winner works is we're going to go around, see who's going to win. We're also going to call who we think is going to get 7th place. And if you're watching live, you can leave a comment and we will try to get it up on the leaderboard and get it displayed. Ben, you are behind Matt by 1 point in the Pick a Winner standings. And Jackson, you are not on the board. Kiska, our beloved Grid Network dog, is ahead of you by picking Max. So what do you got to say for that?
Kiska knows more about wheel than me. That's all I can say. I'll put it down to I probably shouldn't be submitting as much as I have, Joe. And maybe there is some passive aggression in that, but I'm more proud of Kiska than I am mad at myself, honestly.
Well, that being said, do you want to lead us off with your Pick a Winner for this week for Suzuka?
Suzuka, are we doing both the winner and 7th here, guys?
Just start with the first winner, yeah.
Start with first. Every dog has their day, and I think genuinely, like, genuinely this could be Lando's day. I talk about the chaos that could happen, and McLaren might be hiding something. So I really do think something cool could happen there. For 7th place, I am going to say George Russell.
Oh man, pick a winner. As much as I want to say Sainz, just because he seems to be so motivating and everything, I have to go with Max. Simple as that. Max Verstappen, I think, has to be my pick.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only thing that came into my mind was, Jackson, you really don't want to get on this leaderboard here. Okay. I mean, man, you could
change it back to Max, unless my decision is final. No, actually, because Ben pointed that out specifically. No, I'm keeping it at Lando, and I'm really liking my 7th.
I suppose
I'm really liking my 7th.
Your decision's not final until the lights go out, as far as I'm concerned. But
okay, I'm really liking 7th.
It's so. He's right here on the. It's got to be Max Verstappen. I mean, I wish Josh was still on the screen so that I could pick Valtteri Bottas just to mess with him. But no, of course, it's so obvious, isn't it? He's right here. Max Verstappen's going to get the win unless his car blows up like it did in Australia. That's the only thing that's going to stop him.
I've got to agree. I think Max has this in the bag all day, unless something catastrophic happens, like in the midfield, that just completely takes him out of the race. And as you guys mentioned earlier in the show, this time last year when we were doing Suzuka in the After Dark show, you guys started the 7th place pick a winner. And Jackson, you have already said yours, but Joe and Ben, do you have any guesses?
Boy, I'm gonna go with Oscar Piastri. I think this is a hard one, so.
Yeah, well, we're still going to be tied, Jackson, either way, because I'm going to go with George Russell as well.
Okay. Nicole, what do you have?
Solid choice. You guys kind of blew my predictions out of the water. I didn't want to be predictable, but here I was. I did originally have George Russell, but I've since changed it to Leclerc, because if my grand master plan actually works out, I think it's going to be a very interesting midfield battle, and some weird things are going to happen on track. So I'm sticking with Leclerc. All right. And also moving on, we do have NASCAR at Martinsville Speedway. We have no idea who's going to be taking home the grandfather clock at the end of the day, but I would love to hear all of your guesses.
I think Denny Hamlin has had a very calming, motivational conversation with Marcus G. Smith, and I think he is going to use that to power him to victory tomorrow.
Oh,
I'll be here all night.
And I think we're thinking about a roundtable next week about that topic.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Oh,
you want to talk about After Dark?
Yeah. Yeah. Literally.
That was a surprise to wake up to for a lot of people.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Anything can happen after dark. I think for a pick a winner, I got to go with Kyle Larson. I think he's there. 2 consecutive poles. Could have won last weekend. Caution ruined it. He's going to do it again.
LA Clash, Richmond, and Bristol. There's a common theme here. Denny Hamlin, the king of short tracks in 2024. Again, maybe not quite as obvious as Max Verstappen, but I think the obvious favorite to take home the grandfather clock at Martinsville.
Absolutely. I think it'd be bad to bet against Denny Hamlin at this point. So he is also my pick a winner for the week.
Oh, man. A couple of comments in the chat room. Amber, I guess, is going with Max, too. I don't think she's on the leaderboard yet, so try to get ahead. Well, you can't get ahead of Kiska because going with Max automatically. Kobe, I'm doing bad in pick a winner. Needs to step up a game. The undefeated champion.
Yeah, dude. It's weird seeing Kobe this low. But again, we're so early into the season still. I feel like
Kobe's just like Man City in the Premier League. He's going to start out, in 5th or 4th place. Like
no, he's sneaky.
Now,
he's sneaky.
Going to slowly sneak up. He's going to tease people like me and Matthew into thinking we have a chance, and then we're going to bottle the pick a winner standings, and he'll come through and win it again by the end of it, like he does every year. So I wouldn't be too worried, Kobe, if I were you looking at this right now. I think you're in prime position to make your move and got plenty of time to do so.
Hey, Ben, can we make a deal here before we end the stream really quickly?
Sure.
So I'm looking at, I just Googled it. A 12-pack of Mountain Dew Baja Blast at Target is $7.80. And I would be willing to put that money on the line if Lando Norris wins this race.
All right. Well, I know I'm going to be going to Target and picking up some Baja Blast, I guess, in the next 24 hours.
Man.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that offer up.
I was hoping this was maybe more of a one-way deal where you're so confident that Lando isn't going to win that you will give me $8 if Lando wins.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to happen, but if by some crazy turn of events it does, then yeah, we can.
Then it's so predictable that if Max wins that I don't pay you the $8 though, right?
Oh, no, come on, man. It's got to be a. If you're that confident in your Lando pick, you got to stand behind it, man.
Nicole, help me out here. Do I go through on this?
Yes, I will pay for your Baja Blast.
Yes. Okay. I'm doing it. Heard it here first. Joe, get us out of here.
If you're in the chat room watching, you could do super chat, $8. That'll cover some Baja Blast. And for this stream only, you'll get some Grid Network stickers. Normally 10, but we'll do at 8 for the Baja Blast. And we are out of time for my first After Dark. And boy, was it an experience with everything. But we encourage everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to our Patreon investors calling the show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew, for investing in us. They've been with us, a lot of them since the beginning of Colin, I believe, since our first year on the air. Big thank you to him. You can do super chat, as I mentioned, $8. I'll give you some Grid Network stickers for today only. If you were watching us, you could also do Buy Me a Coffee. If you're not watching us live, you'll see the thanks button below and hit the bell icon. Subscribe to the Grid Network. Don't miss any of our programs. We're going to be here again tomorrow for the regular Grid Life wrap-up. Then we're going to have Grid Encore. After Grid Encore, we're looking at Roundtable, as Jackson mentioned. Denny Hamlin, Marcus Smith, just one of a couple topics we're discussing about, especially in this, what's been a wild couple of weeks of silly season news for next year already. And then Grid tonight, Kobe, Josh, Matthew, they'll be on the air. Then we'll do this all over again next week for a regular Grid Live pre-race. But for the China Grand Prix Formula One race, it's going to be another After Dark, so hit the bell icon, subscribe. You don't want to miss that episode. For Nicole Fry, Jackson Lambros, Ben Schneider, Joshua Birch, who is off already, I'm Joe San Diego. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the races.